we have a selected by a very few Liberal Party member prime minister being inaugurated tomorrow, Mark Carney. And we have no one here to represent Canadians that they've actually voted for en masse to do this very important negotiation work. So this is pretty much a political dumpster fire in
Yep.
Canada. And you have Doug Ford trying to kind of like puff up his chest and seem like he has
It's
leverage,
embarrassing.
and then embarrassingly have to backpedal within a day. Not even a day. I think it was like 12 hours. But I'm learning, and I think a lot of Canadians and maybe even Americans as well are learning as this process unfolds and as it continues and the ping pong happens back and forth, is that the U.S. has actually faced very aggressive tariffs from Canada for a long time, and
Yeah.
Trump is really trying to highlight that. And we have a clip here to share where Trump says basically that the U.S. has been ripped off for years with tariffs on various goods.
No, I'm not. Look, we've been ripped off for years, and we're not going to be ripped off anymore. No, I'm not going to bend at all on aluminum or steel or cars. We're not going to bend. We've been ripped off as a country for many, many years. We've been subjected to costs that we shouldn't be subjected to. In the case of Canada, we're spending $200 billion a year to subsidize Canada. I love Canada. I love the people of Canada. I have many friends in Canada. The great one, Wayne Gretzky, the great. Hey, how good is Wayne Gretzky? He's the great one. But we have, I know many people from Canada that are good friends of mine. But, you know, the United States can't subsidize a country for $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't need their lumber. We don't need anything that they give. We do it because we want to be helpful. But it comes a point when you just can't do that. You have to run your own country. And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they do an artificial line right through it.
I want to just share that they don't need anything we have. Meanwhile, we do export a substantial amount of electricity into
Oil and gas. Yeah.
Oil and gas as well, yes. But if Ford were to follow through with his threat, and then the U.S. has to outsource somewhere or else or become more energy independent, which I think is the end goal anyway, but this could definitely expedite that process and give us less time to kind of figure it out and sort out what we're going to do thereafter. Then if the US it gets cut off and Ford follows through with this really aggressive and egregious threat, then that just ends up hurting us in the long term, because now we've lost a major energy consumer and customer from our financial back pocket. This is also a customer relationship, and yes, it's larger economies at play, and I'm certainly not an economist, but I think that I was always, whenever I worked in the service industry or in any sort of job industry, you're taught the customer is always right, and maybe there's room for that not to be the case, but you certainly want to keep your customers happy. And what you're seeing here happening is that certainly just isn't happening. And I think you and Lee's probably discussed it on previous live streams over the last few days, but the White House press secretary, I think we posted it on March, I think it was from the March 11th presser that they did. I was actually shocked at how many tariffs, the percentage of tariffs that are placed
especially dairy
on.
Yeah.
I was just going to say American cheese and butter face a 300% tariff, and there's other tariffs from India, and Japan imposes a 700% tariff on rice, which to the US, which I thought was also crazy. Yeah, I wrote this up yesterday, and there's a clip in there that we posted on YouTube of the press secretary going through. She had a little chart, a tariff chart that she was sharing. And so this is really just Trump holding true to his America First campaign platform, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that trade deficit, by the way, with the United States is oil and gas. Now, I think it's like $100 billion of the $200 billion trade deficit is oil and gas imports from Canada, like 80% of that oil coming from Alberta. Now, it is not a trade deficit if we are selling something to you at a substantially reduced market price because we're forced into what's called a monopoly, only having one customer for our product, thanks to Justin Trudeau. So, I get the strife with ag products. I get the strife with steel, but I don't understand the oil and gas problem because, but I mean, they're getting it to us on the cheap. And, the second we get an export pipeline, that changes because now all of a sudden we have two customers and we don't have to sell at a reduced market rate to the Americans. So I don't know. I think Trump should be careful what he wishes for there. But again, he's not the Prime Minister of Canada. He has no obligation to be nice to us. Like everybody seems to forget that. His job is to make America better for the people who voted for him, and not just the people who voted for him. That's the liberal way of thinking. I'm only the governor of the people that voted for me. His job is to make life better for all Americans, and his vision is to repatriate manufacturing and industries to the United States. Full stop. Everybody knew what he was going to do. Canada should have been ready, but we had our government cheering for Kamala Harris. So here we are.
Well, and what it's really highlighting, for me at least, is how weak our leadership is across the board in Canada. We had Premier Danielle Smith from Alberta down there trying to take on the country's negotiations because we don't have a federal government who's functioning and capable and competent right now. And so really we need strong leadership here in Canada, similar to what you're seeing with Donald Trump. And we sadly just don't have that. And that's paving the way for us to be bullied and get, have things done to Canada and the Canadian people that maybe aren't justified or are unjust. And so weak men create hard times. And that's what Canada is in at this moment.
Exactly. And I saw the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, complain about this, saying, look, I would much rather negotiate with a fully functioning Canadian government chosen by the people, as opposed to all the premiers negotiating individually. What a schizophrenic response we're having to this. It's bizarre. Yeah. It's like negotiating with all these little tiny countries. And if we are going to be forced to negotiate that way, then why are we a confederation at all?
Well, and as we have Mark Carney being implemented into the prime minister position, never elected, he's never been elected by anybody or voted by any Canadian to hold a seat in the House or be a parliamentarian. And here he is being inaugurated as of tomorrow to the highest political position in Canada. So hopefully there's an election called immediately as soon as Parliament resumes at the end of this month, because I think this is a complete affront to democracy and clearly shows that the Liberal Party of Canada just has no respect for the Canadian voters. I mean, as we've seen the last few years, as they have maintained this coalition with the two fringe minority parties, the NDP and the Liberals, and now they've selected the next leader of the country who has never been elected by any actual Canadian resident.
It's a quirk of our parliamentary system that allows the party leader of the party that has the most seats in the House of Commons, regardless of whether or not the party leader holds a seat, to be the prime minister. We had this for a very short time in Alberta. We had an unelected premier named Jim Prentice. But very quickly after he became the leader of the party, he called an election. Also, we weren't currently in an existential crisis. So that makes the things a little bit different. Parliament is so prorogued that it's dysfunctional, and the Americans are threatening to annex us economically, and we don't even have an elected prime minister right now.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com.